Hey, what's up, guys? English Dave here for another Nerdy Bunch spoiler-free review. Today we're here to talk about the movie The Vast of the Night. Or is it no, The Vast of Night? I keep saying The Vast of the Night. But it's
The Vast of Night.
The Vast of Night.
The Vast of Night.
Thank you, Mike.
And this is an Amazon original. But before we get into that, I'm here with my co-host Rocket Mike. What's up, Mike?
Oh, hey.
And Mercedes. What's up, Sadie's?
Sup, guys?
Hi, guys. Mike, I like your background. It's a very vastful night.
Yeah. I'm kind of. It's representing still how lost I am from the ending of it. So I figure I'm just been waiting it here, just lost in
Okay,
space.
good. I wasn't the only one because I was like, well,
No.
okay.
Before we get into it, I'll let you guys know that this will be a spoiler-free review, so don't
That's
worry
as
about
close to a
that.
spoiler as you get. That's it.
However, I will say this. If you're already interested in the movie, I would say go watch it without even listening to this. I think it's a movie that the less you know, the better. So if you're already interested, go off and watch the movie. If you still need some encouragement or need to know, stay on. We won't be spoiling as far as we can. This is the directorial debut of the director Andrew Patterson. This premiered at the 2019 Slamdance Film Festival and went on to screen at other film festivals, and Amazon acquired it last year. He financed the film himself for $700,000, which is pretty good.
Wow.
That's about right.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean,
Like I would know anything about $700,000, but I'm like, yeah, that sounds about appropriate. You know, that looks
Mike,
like
if you
good.
you've spent
Solid
that much.
$700,000. You know, I think that's what it looks like.
The synopsis is as follows. In the twilight of the 1950s, on one fateful night in New Mexico, young switchboard operator Faye and charismatic radio DJ Everett discover a strange audio frequency that could change their small town and future forever. Dun, dun, dun. I'll ask you the first question, Mike. Had you heard of this movie before I made you watch it?
No, everything was brand new.
I was going to say, this is definitely a D.
And this was a whole setup. I knew. He's like, don't even watch the trailer. In fact, what I'm telling you is already too much information. You should have just found this on your own. Like, okay.
Right? How dare you wait for me to tell you?
Go in as blindly as I can. And it worked, though, because it was, not the same feelings that I get when I know anything about the film going in. But it was always a surprise. I was never sure what I was getting into until probably about a half hour in. Maybe a little less, but it was worth it.
Sadie's, I'm going to ask you the same question. Did you know about this film beforehand? You're usually connected to the film festivals track. You're our film festival guide. Had you heard of this before?
This is true. So what's funny is I read the description and then I was like, you know what? I don't really need. I was like, whatever. This is definitely a Dave pick movie. I'll watch it. And then as soon as it started, I was like, this is definitely a Dave movie. And I think as you listen to more of our podcasts, we'll tell you like who's picks what movie. You'll definitely get the vibe of like what we like. But this is definitely a Dave movie. It doesn't mean that just because it's a Dave movie, I didn't like it. But it's heavy on the science fiction. And once I read the description, I was like 2 minutes into the film and I was like, wait a minute, let me watch the trailer. So I watched the trailer and once I watched the trailer, it was like a whole 360 for me. And then I was really able to get into it. I think this movie is definitely going to play to anyone who grew up like watching TV, late night and like I don't know why, but my grandma always had like the late night channel when it would turn to like the Outer Limits or the Twilight Zone.
Definitely that.
It's definitely like Tales of the Crypt where it's like goes into like telling you a tale sort of. So that's where for me I was able to go with the story more because I had that sort of reference where I was like, oh, this is going to be a tale of sorts. It's not going to be so realistic.
You also didn't realize if it was going to be like a horror thriller or it's just like a suspenseful drama.
Exactly.
And I was still
like
trying to gauge. I'm like, this is kind of comedic in some ways too. So I was trying to feel out what kind of theme are they going for with this. And it really does take you on the ride of developing and figuring it out for yourself.
It's funny that you guys bring up those two things because I find this movie, and for people who haven't seen it, this is kind of like almost a warning, but in a good way. This is a movie that's all about the journey, not the destination. It's a journey film, and part of that journey is figuring it out as you go along, because the characters are figuring out something and you're kind of figuring out, and then once it hits you, like, oh, it's this kind of movie, and then you're really drawn into it. But I think, especially for a first-time movie, Mike, I want to talk about that pacing. I think the pacing is part of that, right? It slowly draws you in.
Yeah, it takes some time to get some warming up to, because it, as weirdly as the pacing seems slow, everything moves ironically fast, and you'll see why, and it's not something I've seen in a while, so it really took me aback. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm getting into. I have no idea what I'm seeing here, or even what's being mentioned. There's really no specific topic as to what's going on. Everything's just happening so far, and you're just along to see it.
Mercedes, I want to talk to you about the cast.
Yes.
I think this is a movie that, because it's a journey movie, the cast really carries it. I think that between the dialogue, the writing, and the way it's presented and depicted, especially the two lead characters, I think they do a very good job. That I believe that these were characters in the 1950s. What did you think of the actors and the characters itself?
Absolutely. Even down, like, I believed I wouldn't say, because it was very much like character acting, because like Everett, he definitely put on the accent, but it worked for the type of film that it was, because I think all of the actors needed to be storytellers per se. Going back to my previous comment, like The Outer Limits, the Twilight Zone, those types of shows, like it never started out like, this is what's happening. Like, you knew that you were just getting an excerpt or like a little snippet of a lifestyle, and it was a life or cautionary tale per se, right? So with this, it is a cautionary tale for sure. And it is a journey, as you were saying, and these characters are great about telling you that story, every single one. We're like kind of like vicariously living through them in the film, I felt like, because those were all of our real reactions. Like, if you were, just because it's the 1950s, like those were real arguments that a couple would have,
Definitely. It felt like walking into any one of their own days. This could have been any pick of the litter, any night that you think of, but we're going to tell you why this night is important. We're going into their daily lives. This is all the time.
Yep. And I think that like carried through with like the camera angles, like everything really just needed to tell a story. So even though the pace kind of dragged, it was really just like an extended episode of like a Twilight Zone kind of, because it gave you like
Big
longer camera angles, and then the stories for each individual person was just a little bit more in depth. And like, because these actors were like good actors, even with the old lady, I was like, this scene is a little long, but I was really listening to every single part of like,
I was in it.
That whole, and that's kind of hard. Like, as the actor, Mike, doing a monologue scene is really difficult, and especially in that dark lighting, to get you zoned in on that woman. I thought that was really
That's
great.
at least, if it, without saying anything about it, that's one scene to look forward to keep it hooked in. There is a wonderful scene where you said this woman goes on a story that seems, I don't know, it could have been anywhere between 2 and 5 minutes, but it's went on for so while that you just realize it's all one take. And that's worth looking at, because everything was on her shoulders to achieve this.
For such a low budget movie, it's the cinematography and just the way it's directed on a visual standpoint is very meticulously well done with purpose, right? They do some things that even break the traditional rules of filmmaking in some ways. Yeah, and yet it still works. I think it's really, really well done.
There are some shots that were introduced I've never seen before either.
Yeah. It doesn't do anything new with sci-fi. It just takes the old stuff and makes it fresh, right? It's an old style story in a sense. It's just the way in which it's presented to us.
I mean, I just thought it was really interesting. It's something new and fresh, especially with everything that we have out. And it still had that comic book feel, which was cool.
I think it's a great sci-fi film for those of you who like sci-fi, but I also think it's an interesting movie for those of you who aren't really into sci-fi like that, because it's a very character-based story. And in some ways, like Mercedes alluded to, it's very timely. It plays on some really interesting ideas that kind of are timely today. And even though it's a movie you forget was made recently, it feels like a movie from the 50s. They do a very good job of that.
You could watch this with a grandparent, and they would be like, oh, this is fun.
On that note, and have any of you guys seen the movie? Let us know your thoughts. Find us on social media at The Nerdy Bunch. Thank you, Rocket Mike.
Thank you, English Save.
Thank you, Mercedes.
You're welcome, sir.
My name is English Dave, and this has been a Nerdy Bunch spoiler-free review for The Vast of Night. Catch it right now on Amazon Prime. And as always, Mercedes,
Keep it nerdy, guys.
Peace, guys.